Hey guys, I hope you guys are doing fantastic and welcome to the first episode of the Creative Circuit Chats with myself, Tshulo.
And I'm Manileng. So on this very first episode, we're going to look into the newsroom interview that they did with Somizi regarding the intellectual property theft that he's alleged to have stolen for his show called Dinner at Somizi. So we're going to watch it, we'll cut in between and have our chats in between about certain things that are spoken about. Yeah, and then we'll take it from there. So come be with us and join us on this journey.
Yeah, and the hashtag is the Creative Circuit Chats on Instagram.
Yes.
Media personality Somizi Moeng has been accused of intellectual property theft for his hit show Dinner at Somizi's. Producer Hastings Moeng says he pitched a similar television show. An email thread shared by radio personality Eusebius Mkaiser on social media suggests that the synopsis was sent to Moeng in 2014 and then sent to the current producer in 2016. Moeng says he did not receive a response from the producers. Somizi has since taken to social media to reject the claim made by Moeng. He joins us now on the line. A very good morning to you, Somizi. Thank you for your time and thank you for joining us on Weekend Dawn. It's actually always a pleasure chatting to you. My first question obviously is, have you had any communication with Hastings Moeng ever since all these allegations surfaced this week?
But you don't even give me a chance to greet you. Like, you just went straight to it. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for asking and thank you for checking how I'm doing.
You're welcome. I could listen to you every day. You've got a beautiful voice. So your question was, have I?
So my question obviously is, have you had any contact with Hastings Moeng? I do believe when you came out and had a live Instagram live session, you mentioned that had he come to you and spoken to you before, instead of going to social media or going to a lawyer, it would have been a better exchange between the two of you.
Do you mean, okay, I'm trying to answer the question. If you say, have I ever had a conversation with him before or during this time?
This time. Have you ever had any engagement with him?
No, I haven't.
So what's the plan now going forward? Are you prepared to go to court? Because it seems as though the court is the only place you guys are going to communicate now.
Absolutely. I think it's not a court battle between me and him. I think it's Channel and his team or something like that. Because I think he sent the email to the channel. No, he's never communicated with me. I think my name is just being out there because I am the host of the show. So he is dealing with the channel and channel is dealing with it as well. So I doubt if I'm involved there because there hasn't been any communication.
And maybe...
Okay, so I think that's an actually very interesting part of this whole thing is that if they're saying that they sent it to Somizi directly and that they went on to produce it, it's actually quite interesting that Somizi himself wasn't also sent a letter, considering he's the one that's been accused of the intellectual property theft, considering he's the one that was sent the letter. So I'd also be curious to know whether they also sent the production company Bar Leader a letter as well, because I think the most important thing with having dealt with multi-choice contracts, especially for shows, is that they specifically require an undertaking to be given by, be it the production company or anybody who puts together the production or comes to them with an idea in their agreements, that they give an undertaking or an indemnity against any sort of intellectual property disputes that may arise. So the undertaking that you would give would be that it would go along the lines that, we as the production company we state that we've got the rights, we've received all clearances and the intellectual property to the particular show belongs to us and we've got the right to then transfer it to a third party, and or we've got the license for MultiChoice to air it. So it's actually quite interesting in this instance that Somizi wasn't also addressed, and that the production company wasn't also sent a letter because the email was directly to Somizi. Okay, so
we should take it back a little and look at these email threads that were made public, that go as far back as 2014. Had you seen these email threads? Had you spoken to him before about the show? Or is this the first time you're hearing about the show idea from him?
The first time, I only spoke to him once, and I think it was in 2013, not 2014. He told me that he wants to do, or he wants us to do a cooking show, dinner with Somizi.
That is
interesting. Like that. But I've never seen any documents. So it came as a shock that he sent me emails, which I don't dispute, but I've never opened the document or read an email. And anyone who knows me will tell you that I'm not an email person. I started even having an email again probably 2 months ago after like 5 years of not having emails. I've got a management team that deals with anything that is to do with emails. So if he says he sent it to my personal email, I never opened it. I did have an email address, but I've never opened a document or anything like that. And that is why it's something that never stuck or was at the back of my mind when the cooking thing happened. Because when he approached me, I never even thought I would want to have a cooking show in the first place, because I've always loved cooking, but I never thought I would take it to that level. So the cooking thing really started kicking in for me 2 years ago, I think, when social media started getting bigger and bigger. And then I decided around February just after lockdown, that I'm going to have my own YouTube channel, and that is how the cooking show came about. So moving forward, it was just a natural progression of me. Oh, okay, now I love cooking. Now I'm ready to cook. Now I can do a cooking show. And when I do a cooking show, what do I call it? Something with Somizi, whether it's dinner with Somizi, lunch with Somizi, keep or popcorn with Somizi. It's me. Somizi is me. So it's never been a thing that there's a document like this and there's an idea like this. Let me go back to these things and do A, B, C, and D.
Okay. Yeah, I actually found that quite interesting. The fact that to me, it sounds like the idea of him cooking came after the conversation he had with the person who initially came up with the idea, if you think about it.
Yeah, so I think the most important thing that we also need to, address, right, is that with intellectual property, it's all good and well to have an idea and then you verbalize it to somebody. Yeah. But if you're just verbalizing it and you're saying this is what I want to do, but you don't have any sort of material form of it, it's not in any substance. Like the email. The email is a substance. It's got a presentation. It's got the whole process of how it goes. His idea, he's taken it and he's reduced it to form. Yes. But when he spoke to him, from what he's suggesting, that in 2013 when they spoke, he spoke about an idea and just said, I've got this idea. And that's a dangerous thing that I think is important for creatives, that if you've got an idea that you want to share with somebody, it's always best that you've got it reduced to writing before you even verbalize it to anybody, because verbalizing it, he could have said that to Somizi and then Somizi goes and runs with it.
So what do you do? Do you write? Do I actually initiate the meeting with you and then I send you an email beforehand to show that I actually sent you an email? If we're going back to search for documents, if I think, okay, cool, look, I've got an email that I sent on this date to this person, and then we can actually pull that.
Yeah. So my recommendation, right, first and foremost, is don't just go around sending your proposals and your ideas to people without first ensuring that at least you've got some level of protection. Yes, fair enough. You can send that email, and by virtue of sending that email, you've got your copyright to that particular idea. Yeah. But now you haven't the other person doesn't have any sort of they've got a moral responsibility to not do anything.
Okay.
Whether they're going to take that or not is a different story. So I can say to you, thanks Solo, like he's alleging he never got the email and he didn't see the email.
Yeah.
Then it's a question of now we have to do forensic things, and now we're digging into referring to ECTA, Electronic Communications Transactions Act. We were saying, okay, was the email really read? Can we say that the email was delivered by virtue of the fact that there wasn't any error message that was that was returned to the sender? And now Somizi would then have to prove that he didn't read and open this email.
Yeah.
And that's stuff that forensic specialists can do.
Yeah.
But just to go back to your question, it's just that when you do have ideas, ensure that you've got some mechanism of protection. When you send a proposal, don't send your whole thing. I think it's always best for you to send a truncated form or a summarized form of what the proposal is about. And then once you get into the meeting, and once you've also given them, be it an NDA to sign or some sort of memorandum of understanding or some sort of letter of intent, etc., that you guys can enter some sort of written document where certain undertakings are made by both parties to say, this is, a particular idea, we're meeting on X date, and this is the discussion that we're going to have, and we undertake that we will treat that meeting with confidentiality. Or if you do sign an NDA, which some people always refuse to sign, they don't want to sign an NDA because they don't know what's in that NDA, how far it binds them, and whether the idea that's going to be pitched is really an original idea that they might not have thought of. But I think first and foremost, just don't send your proposals.
Yeah.
Deal with it. Have a formal meeting. Have a sit-down meeting. Say, I want to have a meeting with you to discuss XYZ. They might ask you for a bit of a synopsis of what it is. You can give them that and just lay it out to say, it's regarding a television show, take into account Somizi's love for cooking, and I think with his personality and and his cooking skills, whatever, there's a possibility for a show that can come into effect that will be highly successful and different from any other shows. And then you've kind of they salivated a bit, like, okay, cooking, Somizi, personality, what do you mean? How does it work? And then you get into a meeting, or even before you get into the meeting, then an NDA signed, you get to the meeting, you do your presentation, and then you've got a bit of a better situation, because now Somizi is saying, oh no, but now I didn't open the email, I don't read emails.
I've got a team that takes care of that.
You know what I'm saying?
And it could be true also. It could be true.
Could be true. He might have a team that reads everything. Then the question is, does his team then tell him everything that they do? Does he agree to his team just binding him on every single thing that he does? Is that going to be the scapegoat? Because then, can we really blame your team for everything?
No.
Then that's another question.
That's
for
quite
another
actually
day.
dangerous. It actually shows how negligent you are if you're trying to run yourself as a business, because you need to be aware of everything that happens around you.
Toni Braxton is a prime example of that. I mean, I know I digress, but she had the whole issue when she filed for bankruptcy that she always just used to sign blank checks, and she would just give her team blank checks, and the team would just do whatever. So they would add the zeros. So all Miss Toni does is sign that check, and then her team will add the zeros.
Oh my goodness.
And she ended up being bankrupt. And I remember that episode so clearly. It was on Oprah Winfrey back in the day, and she had her Versace dinner plates and all of that when she was having this conversation about it. So it is very dangerous, because then now, if the issues around this particular show, we're sitting in a position where if Somizi's management read the emails and then they said, hey, how about we do this? Then what?
Yeah.
Do you get what I mean? And if his management read it and it was his personal email address, then for all intents and purposes, Somizi read that email.
Yeah.
He received the email, So let's carry on watching.
All right, Somizi, I just want to, before I let you go, just ask, briefly, just to conclude, how do you explain such a similar concept then? Is it just a concept that you had? Is it a concept that Legend Mandela had, or maybe taken from Hastings? How do you explain this sort of cooking show concept then?
For me, I think it baffles me, because there's nothing original in this space about my cooking show. he could have, if it was an intellectual property that is copywritten, for instance, then people like Zolanele could be sued. People like Dinner with Tipogazi could be sued. Sandy Klapo had a show 4 years ago that is exactly the same as my show. The only difference with my show, which I thought, that's why I probably thought it's an original concept, is that during brainstorming sessions, I came up with like a few ideas that I think are original for me. I'll give you an example. Things like food for thought. There's no cooking show that has a food for thought segment where it's a motivational talk at the end of the show. And also the format of my show is slightly different to any other cooking show. Like it ends up being like a / talk show, but also my guests. What separates my guests from any other show is that it's people that I personally know, so that it doesn't feel like an interview, it feels like a conversation. The people that I have a personal experience with. And then, and the title, that's what I also contributed to say. They had a different title that didn't have my name, and I said, no, I'm not going to do a show that doesn't have my name if I'm the host. So that's what baffles me. What is different from in my show that is not happening in any other cooking show?
Okay, dokes. So, my little 5 cents with that, right? My 5 cents are normally 1,500, 2,000 rand per hour. We bill per hour. Honestly,
you kill me, but it's true.
Honestly, if you look at the proposal that was sent by Hastings, if you look at the format that was sent by Hastings, and I get the argument because I'm also of the school of thought that there are a lot of cooking shows. Cooking shows are not great. This is not the first cooking show. There's a lot of inspiration that could have been drawn. I mean, there's, the Snoop Dogg and Martha Stewart cooking show. I mean, there's a whole cooking network that's got a lot of different talk showy. That's got cooking shows where celebrities and the likes come on. I mean, even Ricky Lake. Even Ricky Lake at some point. I'm old. Ricky Lake had a. Do you even know Ricky Lake?
Dude, I used to. After school, Ricky Lake was my thing.
Okay.
I used to love Ricky Lake.
I just needed to check.
She was one of the first.
You know what I'm saying? So there were certain segments where there was cooking, etc. My biggest concern with this particular one is that from beginning to end, it's almost the exact same identical concept as the email. If you look at the proposal, if you look at the format of it, I mean, from the beginning, how he will welcome his guests, how the guests will be with him in the kitchen, breaking a sweat with him, cooking with him, and then moving and transitioning to a talk show, and then sitting and having that chat and eating and all of that, So all of that, when you look at it together, it reads per the proposal that was sent. I mean, the issue around the guests, I mean, the fact that the guests are people he knows personally, we can argue that all those people that are on the list that was proposed by Mr. Hastings Moeng are people that Somizi knows. I mean, Lilian Dube. Somizi knows Lilian Dube. Somizi used to, I don't want to say they were good friends, but he used to know AKA personally. Mini Lamine and Somizi are you could call them friends. I mean, they were at each other's weddings. They know each other. It's not people that he doesn't know. So for me, it's a bit of an interesting spin to it to say, he formulated and threw in some of his ideas in this concept, when the concept almost reads verbatim to what they've created.
It does.
And I think the biggest thing for me is that even the name of the show, because even Somizi is insisting that he's the one that said, no, the show must have his name in it, and he recommended the name of the show. If you look at that particular proposal that was sent through by Hastings Moeng, he said, Dina kwa Somizi. So, kwa in our vernacular, isiZulu means at. So he just replaced the kwa with at, which then also makes it worse, because now it just says, but even the name is the same. So are you saying that in 2014, when he sent this particular proposal, to where we are now in 2020, when the production of the proposal happened, that everything was just exactly identical? I mean, even to the extent of the sponsors that could be approached. at that
saw
point,
that. I mean, you can see. I mean, with all these emails. I mean, and now your safety net is the fact that other people have cooking shows attached with their name on it.
Yeah, it might have been easy for him to get away with that if he had never received a proposal that was detailed like this.
Yeah.
But I think from my point of view, and I would, if I was Hastings' attorney and I was on the other side, I would definitely argue and say this is the show that I sent. I mean, Pearl Thusi was a guest just the other day. The difference is that the episode he had on was Pearl Thusi and DJ Zintle versus, Pearl just being on the list of the guests. So, I feel like it's a stretch, it's a reach. Someone's hand is feeling sore at the moment.
Yeah.
And people have had shows, but he even said, but mine is different. It also takes on an interview form. This is what the proposal says.
Looking at the proposal, exactly. I mean, if this was not there, if the documents are all not there, maybe we could have had a different perspective about it. But now that there's documents and everything in line, I think this is going to be an interesting one.
Very tricky for Somizi. I hope his lawyer is like really on top of things with it. I mean, there's obviously avenues around it, but let's watch the rest of it.
It's a matter of, there is a plan to go to court. Are you going to get your lawyers involved, or is it a matter of the channel then getting their lawyers involved and going to court and battling it out with Hastings Moeng?
Like I said, in terms of the legal thing is, nothing has been said to me or sent to me. So I think it's between Hastings and channel.
Media personality Somizi Mhlomo, thank you so much for your time. Somizi Mhlomo Motaung was speaking to us about the intellectual property theft allegations behind the popular cooking show Dinner at Somizi's. Newsroom Africa would like to state on the record that an interview was scheduled with Hastings Moeng's attorney, Mabu Makweshe, as we did try to reach both this morning for the scheduled engagement without any success.
Okay, so I think, listening to everything that was said, right? And, the part about whether Somizi will be part of the litigation or not. Chances are the reason why they also went directly for Channel is that Channel is the one with the money.
Yeah.
Channel is the one that's broadcasting it. So if there's any sort of intellectual property, you have to notify the party who's infringing. And the party that's infringing on someone else's rights is the broadcaster. Yeah. What the broadcaster then can do is then it will raise its own defenses and either say, well, we will stop with the airing of the episodes of the rest of the season until such a time as the issue's resolved. But for the most part, broadcasters never do that because money's already been plowed in. There's advertising revenue on the line at that particular point in time. I mean, already there was an episode that aired even after the fact, So, but what the broadcaster can then do is that they will then inform the production company that, I mean, this would also be in the contract. So generally in the contracts that you sign, especially where there's undertakings around, litigation and intellectual properties that are given, is that then in that agreement, they would specifically notify the production company that if there is any sort of dispute that arises from the intellectual property or any other undertakings that have been given by the production company, that the channel will also litigate, but the production company will also be notified, and the production company may then be required to litigate as well. So I think from that perspective, it is quite interesting that they still haven't sent any sort of letter to Abu Somizi.
I think it's quite interesting that hasn't been done, especially at this point when it's so heated.
Exactly, and I think it should have been a parallel process
to everyone.
Where you're sending the letter to Somizi, you're sending the letter to bar leader, and you're sending the letter to broadcaster, because all of them have a leg. I mean, he says 2018, Hastings says he sent it to bar leader, to Legend. Somizi got it in 2014. Channel is broadcasting it now. Yeah. So he would have had to.
And he mentioned the fact that conversations about it only started in 2013. With Hastings.
Yeah. So I mean, those conversations, they can happen, but the fact that all of this stuff happened, and it's a bit of an interesting way and approach to go about it by not sending letters to all the parties who are involved, because if you want to litigate and you want to join them in the particular proceedings, you would have to then join Somizi in the proceedings, because Somizi is the one that you're literally alleging that they stole your idea.
Yeah.
Exactly, So broadcaster is involved because they're airing it and they're causing the infringement. But the very interesting thing is, with all the articles and all the the conversations and all that stuff about it, is that, Channel came out, the broadcaster came out and said, well, we've got an undertaking in our agreement. So they've basically, without even saying a lot, it's almost like they're saying, we are going to shift this to where it belongs, and we will deal with it based on the contractual obligations that we have with the production company, versus them, I see broadcaster would be instrumental in that they can negotiate some sort of middleman to negotiate some sort of settlement or some sort of agreement between the parties. But yeah, I think they're already, by that mere statement, they're kind of absolving themselves of the
I mean, I would as well.
responsibility.
I'm such a big brand, and now why should I now let all this stuff stick onto me?
So, I mean, look, I think also the most important thing around it is understanding what intellectual property is, and knowing that, a copyright exists the minute it is reduced to some sort of material form, or it's reduced to writing, or if you're a singer and your melody and you hum it, the minute you then sing it and it's a sound recording that you've created, a copyright has been created to that particular piece of work. And I think it's important for people to understand that, because it also seems, from what Somizi said, I watched his Instagram live, I saw snippets of it, all over social media. People had done a couple of snippets on it, and it seems like he's of the view that copyright is only created once there's an agreement between them, versus it being something that that email that you received from Hastings is the copyrighted material. As is already, So I think that's the kind of the interesting part. And I think also another thing, with this whole Somizi thing, is the whole DVD. The DVD, the exercise
the working
DVD,
out DVDs.
Where he speaks about the fact that he conceptualized this DVD with this particular guy. And then he realized that he was going to be screwed over, for lack of a better word. And then he went off and did it on his own. I mean, by virtue of that,
which kind of sounds the same as what he's doing right now.
It does sound similar. So it kind of also can create a pattern, because there's also things that you look at, when you're trying to defend a case or you're trying to argue a case. Hastings attorneys can say, well, this person's has got a history of doing this. Just after we've done this, someone else came out and said, this is what he did, and used that material that he got from Somizi's IG Live that I decided to then go off and do it on my own. I mean, the guy that's fighting Somizi about that's almost Somizi saying, yes, I did steal your idea, because he said, yes, we did conceptualize it together. What does that mean? If you conceptualize it together, did you put it together in form, in writing? Did you start recording? And from my understanding and hearing this, the other guy's side of the story is that he'd already plowed in money, invested money, and there seeed to have been some sort of recordings that were done, and he was 100,000 out in the exactly.
There
so
was a pilot out,
you're just like, well, question marks. So I think it's very important for anybody who's trying to do anything, if you've got an idea, that you have to have some sort of agreement in place. You have to have some sort of arrangement, especially if you're doing something jointly. I mean, we think about me and you, for example. We've got our own little written thing to say, how the structure of it and all of that will work, because it's something we've both conceptualized. We've got that in place, and of course we'll have it in place because,
I mean,
but you see, do you get what I mean? So I think it's just important for people to get that through their heads and to understand that you have to just have some sort of agreement in place. And if you're going to renege on anything that you've agreed to, then you must make sure that you've sent an agreement to the other party and the other party's transferred their rights to you, or you've sold over the rights, or you've got some sort of understanding, be it that, whatever amount of money that they've paid into it, you'll give them the capital or investment amount and maybe 5% or whatever amount that you negotiate of the profits. And then that way you have a clean break. But to just say you just decided to go off and do it on your own because you realized you weren't going to get a big share, is not a good enough excuse or response, you know.
It's
so
not a good leg
it's
to
very
stand on.
dangerous. And I think personally, from a lawyer, Somizi should not have done any of the interviews that he's done.
Yeah.
Especially since this is such a hot topic and it's still so fresh, and it's he should have just said no comment. The letters were not addressed to me. It's addressed to broadcaster. I can't deal with it. I mean, personally, I didn't even know that the letters were only sent to broadcaster. I always thought they were sent directly to Somizi. And the fact that he wasn't even involved directly from
very questionable.
It's like, why did you even do any
and
interview?
it's a bit too late for him to say that he's only going to start getting his lawyers involved now, when this thing has already started, like,
grown its own legs.
You know what I mean? I mean, even when the lawyer comes in right now he's got other things to deal with as well.
Damage control of all the interviews that were done.
The live chats that you are going on and letting us know what's going on.
Exactly.
We're listening.
I'm just, you know, like my eyebrow kept on. Every time I was like reading anything, I was like, oh my god, no, don't say that. Oh no, please don't say. Exactly, because you're just like
digging it proper, deeper and deeper,
without getting advice on how to deal with it. So I think that is that's going to be quite interesting to watch, because now the lawyer has to put out fires of what's already been created.
Yeah.
So good luck to them.
Very good luck to them.
Yeah, so I mean, I think that was quite an interesting take on our first episode, but I think the important thing is our next episode, we should then deal with the crux and the meat of what intellectual property is, how intellectual property is registered, and how you can protect your intellectual property.
Definitely, and where to go to if you need information on that sort of stuff. And
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, intellectual property and entity.
Yes. Yes. Okay, we can do that.
Yeah.
We can
I think it's also very important that people know the other stuff. Of it is the other side of it as well.
All right, great. Thank you so much, and we'll see you on episode
2. And let us know what you think.
Yes.
We're more than happy to hear what you think of our episodes. I did tell you that the hashtag is @CreativeCircuitChat.
Cheers.